All right, strap in, everybody. We are going deep today into like some really thought-provoking stuff.
Oh, sounds exciting.
It is. We're tackling Aldous Huxley, the Grave New World guy,
Oh, yeah.
and we're going to explore his thoughts on creativity.
Okay.
Specifically, the big question, can LSD actually boost your artistic genius?
Wow, that's a big one.
It is. We're basing this whole deep dive on a 1960s interview he did with the Paris Review, so, think Mad Men, but way more intellectual.
I like it. Bit more depth.
Definitely. Lots of depth.
It's pretty amazing how, even back then, he was already grappling with this whole LSD and creativity thing.
Right. Like, does it really unlock some hidden potential, or is it just like a psychedelic illusion?
A mirage, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're telling me dropping acid won't magically transform me into Picasso?
Well, not exactly. At least that's what Huxley was getting at.
Okay, good to know. So no instant artistic genius.
He was pretty skeptical of that idea. He argued that LSD experiences are super unpredictable. They could be so different for each person.
Okay, so no one-size-fits-all creativity pill.
Yep.
Gotcha. But why? Why are these LSD experiences so unpredictable?
Well, he makes this really interesting analogy. Imagine you're totally in love, like head over heels.
Okay, I can picture that.
Do you think you'd be able to, sit down and write poetry?
In that moment, probably not.
Right. You'd be too caught up in all those emotions.
Yeah, love can be pretty consuming.
Totally. So in a way, Huxley's saying LSD is kind of like falling in love.
But instead of hearts and flowers, it's, well, whatever crazy visuals LSD throws at you.
Yeah, exactly. It's intense, overwhelming, maybe even a bit scary. Not exactly the perfect state of mind for writing a poem.
I get it, but here's the thing. If LSD lets you see all these amazing things, why is it so hard to, actually paint them or write about them?
It's like trying to describe a dream, isn't it?
Totally.
It's so vivid when you're in it.
Yeah.
But trying to translate that?
Into words.
Exactly. It's almost impossible.
So it's more than just having the vision. It's about bridging the gap between that experience and, the limits of language or art.
You got it. And Huxley even suggests that LSD can give us a glimpse into how artists like, say, Van Gogh might have seen the world.
Oh, wow. Like seeing everything super vibrant, colors amplified.
Exactly. Imagine that. A world where everything just pulses with energy.
Wow, that's powerful. So you're saying LSD could temporarily shift our perception to be more like certain artists?
Yeah, that's what Huxley proposed, yeah. He believed it could alter how we see things, make the world seem, I don't know, almost magical. Like reality itself has been transformed.
A transfigured reality. I like that.
Yeah. And get this. He thought these perceptions could stick around even after the LSD wears off.
Wait, really? So even when the trip is over?
Exactly. Like a little afterglow.
Yeah.
He said people can sometimes, recapture those glimpses of that altered reality. Maybe not as intensely, but
still.
Yeah. Pretty mind-blowing, right?
It is. It kind of makes you think maybe there's some truth to the idea that psychedelics can shift your perspective, maybe even permanently. But if that's true, shouldn't we be seeing tons of incredible LSD-inspired art?
You would think, wouldn't you? But here's the catch. Even Huxley, open-minded as he was, had his doubts about the actual artistic value of most art inspired by LSD.
Oh, really? He wasn't impressed.
Not really. He found a lot of it to be, honestly, kind of uninteresting.
That's surprising.
He felt most artists just couldn't quite capture the true intensity, the depth of the LSD experience. Words and images just fell short.
So experiencing these incredible visions is one thing, but translating them into art, that's a whole other challenge.
Yeah, I guess it highlights the limitations of art, trying to express something so personal, so subjective.
Yeah. Frustrating, maybe.
Absolutely. But Huxley did have one exception.
Oh, tell me.
He thought maybe, just maybe, exceptionally gifted artists, people who already see the world in unconventional ways. They might have a shot at translating their LSD visions into something truly powerful.
Okay, so it takes a certain kind of genius to bridge that gap.
Seems that way.
Makes sense. But what about the psychological effects of LSD? Did Huxley talk about that side of things?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where things get even more fascinating.
Okay, I am all ears. Spill it.
He really believed in the potential of LSD for deep personal insights. He even suggested it could be like a catalyst for psychological exploration and, even liberation.
So it's not just about the visuals?
No, not at all. He talked about how LSD can trigger intense emotional experiences, super vivid memories, stuff that might be buried deep down.
Almost like opening Pandora's box.
Exactly. A powerful tool, but one that needs to be treated with respect.
Mhm.
And he makes this really bold comparison. He compares the psychological exploration that can happen with LSD to, like, years of traditional psychoanalysis.
Wow, really? Like a fast track to self-discovery.
That's one way to put it. But it's important to remember, Huxley was writing at a time when LSD research was just beginning. Our understanding has evolved a lot since then.
Right, right. But even so, his ideas are super thought-provoking, even all these years later.
Definitely. And to wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's important to touch on Huxley's broader point about LSD. It's not just about pretty colors or even therapy. It's about the nature of reality itself.
Okay, now we're getting into the deep stuff. This is where I get really interested.
He argued that LSD can shatter the illusion that our everyday reality is the only reality, that there are other kinds of worlds outside, as he put it.
So, like, expanding our perception beyond our normal everyday awareness, like seeing beyond the matrix.
Precisely. And he believes there were benefits to seeing things this way. Like maybe we could develop a healthier, more open perspective on reality, recognizing that our way isn't the only way.
That's a tough one. Makes you think, right? And on that note, we're going to take a little pause here. So before that little pause, we were talking about Huxley's idea that experiencing these, like, other realities through LSD could actually be healthy.
Right. It's a pretty radical idea, isn't it?
It is. What do you make of it?
Well, he was really convinced that LSD could, help us break free from the limitations of our everyday reality, reveal these other worlds, these other ways of seeing.
It's like he's saying there's more to reality than, what we normally see, like those optical illusions where you see one image and then suddenly, bam, it's something totally different.
Yeah. Like our brains are just wired to see things a certain way. And LSD, he thought, could shake that up.
It's like those optical illusions where, you see one thing and then it shifts and it's like, whoa, there's a whole other image there.
Exactly. Like our brains are just wired to see things a certain way. And he thought LSD could, shake that up.
Okay, I can see how that could be a positive thing. But let's be real, not all experiences with, altered states are positive.
You're absolutely right. We've all heard stories about people having, challenging experiences with psychedelics or even traumatic ones.
Exactly. So how do we reconcile, like, Huxley's optimism with the potential risks?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. And I think it comes down to a few key factors that we now understand are really important for, like, a safe and positive experience.
Okay, like what?
Well, first, intention. Like, why are you choosing to explore these altered states? What do you hope to get out of it?
It's not just about, getting high or having a fun trip.
Exactly. It's about approaching it with, a sense of purpose and respect.
Respect for the power of these substances.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's set and setting.
Set and setting. Now, I've heard that phrase before, but...
It basically means the environment you're in, the people you're with, your mental and emotional state. All that stuff.
So, like, if you're going to experiment with something like LSD, you don't want to be in, I don't know, a loud club with a bunch of strangers.
Probably not the best setting, no.
Okay, so a calm, supportive environment is key. Got it. What else?
Integration.
Integration. Now, what does that mean?
It's not enough to just have the experience, right?
Right.
You need to take the time to, reflect on it, make sense of it, figure out how to, apply it to your life.
So connect the dots between the psychedelic experience and your everyday reality.
Yeah. It's about learning from it.
Like, how can I use what I learned to become a better person or a more creative person or whatever?
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting. Huxley believed these altered states could offer us, real insights
Yeah.
into ourselves, our relationships, even our place in the universe.
Okay, that's pretty deep stuff. But let's bring it back to creativity for a minute. We started this conversation talking about LSD and artistic inspiration.
Right. So how does all of this connect?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think Huxley's ideas can be applied to creativity in a few ways. First, by, breaking down those rigid thought patterns, psychedelics might help us see the world with fresh eyes.
Like shaking up the snow globe of our minds.
I love that. It's like all those settled ideas and perspectives get tossed around, and when they settle again, you see a whole new landscape.
Exactly. So psychedelics could help us get out of those creative ruts. But isn't there a danger of becoming too reliant on them?
That's where the integration piece is so important. It's not about relying on the substance. It's about using the experience, as a catalyst for growth, for deeper self-exploration.
Makes sense. So not a magic bullet, but a tool. What else did Huxley say about the connection between psychedelics and creativity?
He also talked about how they might help us connect with the, the raw source of our creativity. by tapping into deeper emotional states, unconscious material, that kind of thing.
Accessing that wellspring of inspiration.
Precisely. And lastly, he believed that by revealing the interconnectedness of, well, everything, psychedelics could inspire a sense of awe and wonder. And that can be super powerful for artistic expression.
So it's not just about generating ideas, it's about connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
Beautifully put.
Mm.
And I think that's a key takeaway from Huxley's work. It's not just about LSD. It's about the potential of these altered states, however we achieve them, to unlock human potential, to expand our understanding of ourselves and the world.
We've covered a lot today, haven't we? Huxley's ideas about LSD, creativity, the nature of reality. But there's one more thing we need to address.
You're right. The ethical implications. We can't ignore those.
Exactly. Using substances to alter our perception, to unlock our potential, that raises some serious questions.
It does, and that's where things get really interesting and maybe a little controversial.
Okay, so we're back,
Mhm.
and we're like right on the edge of this ethical cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's tricky territory for sure. I mean, the idea of intentionally changing our consciousness
Right.
with LSD or, anything else,
It brings up all these questions.
it really does. Like about free will, societal norms, what it even means to be human.
Yeah, exactly. It's deep stuff. So, like, what are some of the concerns about using substances to, enhance creativity or, like, unlock psychological potential?
Well, one worry is, pressure, exploitation even. Like,
Yeah.
what if these substances become more common,
Yeah.
more accepted?
Right.
How do we make sure people are using them because they want to, not because they feel they have to?
Yeah, we don't want to live in a world where you need to, like, drop acid to keep up with everyone else or meet some crazy expectation.
Exactly. Like, imagine feeling pressured to take LSD just to, I don't know, be a better artist.
Or get ahead at work.
Exactly. Just slippery slope.
Totally. So pressure is a big one. What else?
Authenticity, that's a biggie too. Like, if we're using substances to change how we think, how we feel, how we see things,
Right.
are those experiences really ours? Or are they, like, artificial?
It's almost like blurring the line between, genuine self-discovery and being manipulated.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
a tough one to grapple with.
It really is. And then there's the whole question of, like, how this affects society. What happens if these substances become, like, widely used?
Yeah, does it disrupt everything? Change social structures? Erode traditional values?
Or, like, could it lead to a more empathetic society? More understanding, more connection between people?
It's hard to say. There's so much potential for both, positive and negative outcomes.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns. It kind of feels like we're standing at a crossroads.
We are, in a way.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have these conversations, right?
Absolutely, to, like, really think through the ethics. Be cautious, but also open-minded.
Exactly. Approach it all with a sense of responsibility.
So where do we go from here? Like, how do we navigate all this and, tap into the potential of altered states in a way that's beneficial?
Research. That's the first step. We need to understand the long-term effects, both good and bad.
Right. Makes sense.
And we need ethical guidelines.
Mm.
Think about things like informed consent, minimizing harm, making sure access is equitable.
So, like, we need to be careful, learn from the past, the good and the bad.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, right, between exploration and responsibility.
Totally. But I also think it's about fostering a culture where people can talk about these things openly, explore these experiences safely, share what they learn.
I agree. We need spaces where people feel comfortable, talking about these things.
Safe spaces.
Yeah, safe spaces.
So it's not just about the substances themselves, it's about the context, the intention, and like we said before, the integration. It's about understanding our minds, our potential on a much deeper level.
Yeah, well said.
Right.
And I think that's what Huxley was getting at, ultimately. He was fascinated by psychedelics, but he also saw the potential dangers.
Right.
He believed they could help us expand our consciousness, connect with something bigger, but he also, emphasized wisdom, careful judgment, all of that.
So to wrap up our deep dive into Huxley's world, I think the takeaway is altered states of consciousness, whether it's through substances or other methods, they hold incredible potential for creativity, insight, personal growth, but we gotta approach it all responsibly, thoughtfully,
Absolutely.
with respect, big time. I think Huxley would challenge us to, like, explore these realms with courage, with curiosity, and with a commitment to using what we learn to make things better.
That's a good challenge to leave on.
It is. So we'll leave you to ponder all this, the ethical stuff, the possibilities. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.